Hey guys, welcome to another edition of Sports Talk New York, the Facebook Live edition. And we've been trying to do this thing on now. We're going to try to do this weekly as a lot of people are into sports collectibles, myself included, AJ and tons. And joining us now is the president, Scott Stimell of Cardboard Memories, which is an emerging sports memorabilia company. Carries a full line of sports cards, autographed memorabilia. Cardboard Memories represents what is lacking in the retail and wholesale memorabilia market today. The premier company offers that special personal touch, and I can vouch for that. As Scott definitely takes a lot of time with each of his customers, and he's so into it. He's been collecting for over 30 years. For the past 27 years, he's owned and operated one of Long Island's most reputable memorabilia stores, and it's really awesome having you on. And last week, a lot of people that watched were sending me different things like how much is this worth and how much is that worth, and we're just also talking with you last week about how certain things start trending because of different things out there in the market. And one of the things we notice now is all of a sudden all this Michael Jordan talk because of the documentary. So have you noticed an upswing in Jordan memorabilia, like people asking and things like that at this point?
Yeah, well, I'm seeing people. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on again. And you didn't say Cardboard Memories, so a little plug. Anyway, yes. So the answer to the question is definitely people are trapped in their homes, right? We're all quarantined. So what makes us happy? Going back to things that we remember, right? And time gone by. So people are watching this documentary now, and they're actually getting to relive what it was like, or people that were told about Michael Jordan that might be 25 years old, because I think, what was his last year? Late 90s, maybe 2000. Yeah. So they're watching this and going, oh my God, this guy was, unbelievable. And the whole run. So it's definitely creating a buzz and people to go back to their childhood again, pick up the stuff, look back at the stuff and say, I mean, we all know he's the greatest of all time. You could argue it, to the cows come home. But, 6 championships and the ability to play offense, defense, and, get you whenever he wanted. I mean, you couldn't stop him. There's no way to stop him, right? Could you stop him, Mark?
No, not at all.
You stop, Mark. Could you stop?
Well, I mean, me personally, no, but I'm 5'6", So
but
you got to get your body in front of him.
But then everyone started talking about the differences between Michael and LeBron and which one's greater. And there's just so many different, debates that come up over that. So here's an interesting question. So of the two, which do you see as being more sought after as far as collectibles?
Well, I've always had this. You could give a back and forth argument. I actually had this argument with Matt Martin of the Islanders. Actually, he believes LeBron's the greatest. So I look at. I'm a purist. I'm a basketball purist. So to me, like, they're both great, and LeBron can carry a team by himself. He's done it. You saw him do it in Cleveland. So you can't take anything away from that because he's a man amongst boys. To me, Michael Jordan, he was taking the last shot. And I know LeBron gives it away and stuff like that, but Michael Jordan to me is pure poetry. LeBron is jumping through people. He's physically stronger than everybody else. Michael Jordan wasn't physically stronger than everybody else. He just had such a will and such physical ability on both sides of the ball that I think that Michael's the best. People will argue that LeBron could jump through you, jump over you. He's stronger than anybody else.
From a memorabilia standpoint, though, take a look back. How much is a matter of what's available? If you look at LeBron's stuff, which is out here, and there's a lot of it. Michael, there's a lot from his time also. But how about compare those two to go back to different times, to even less Magic Johnson stuff than there is Michael Jordan? Or do you go back to Bill Russell, Will Chamberlain,
Jerry West?
All right. Well, that goes back to what we talked a little about last week about Jerry West. You could have to be the greatest players in the world, but if you're not having that correlation of that 30 to 50-year-old person that's spending money, that's really whatever, and those people that had a lot of time to get those, Jerry West and Bob Cousy's and Willis Reeds and all those guys, they're not as valuable just because you have a younger base that's spending money now, and that really relates more to the current athlete like a LeBron, a Jordan, a Kobe, a modern, give it today, a Steph Curry, a Luka, guys like that they're collecting.
So does that take a Larry Bird out of the mix? Because he's sort of in the middle there. People 50s, saw him play, but didn't have that same, wildness in terms of memorabilia.
It certainly doesn't take him out of the mix. You could kind of say Dr. J, Michael Jordan, Dr. J, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, in that tier before. They came before that change. Everyone says changed the game, which they did, in that period of time. And then you have the Jordan. Then I put the Kobe, the Jordan, the LeBron they're in their upper echelon as far as collecting value wise, and not as available because they all originally had signed contracts with Upper Deck, which kept their autographs at a higher level. Some of the other players did have some contracts, but they swayed back and forth and were available through lots of different channels. So it's availability versus rarity versus great.
So where in all this does Shaq fit in the mix?
Great question, because Shaq is starting to come back of recent. How I take it is big guys never really have the same value as the flashy guards that kids, that are 6 foot tall and 5'8" that want to be a guard. Being a center was never as glorified. Being a big man was never as glorified. So the relatability, you need relatability and connection. So I could never think I'd be like Shaq. So I don't have the connection. I could never really be like anyone. I'm more like my favorite player was Michael Ray Richardson, but that's another story.
It's interesting on top of that is what's collectible. So just watching some of the people that are in the chat room right now, we have 2 former athletes right now that are watching us. One is Mike Hartman of the Stanley Cup champion New York Rangers. Another is Everson Walls, New York Giants. So they're game used equipment. All right. So granted, both great players, both professional players, but there's actually a pecking order. Michael Jordan, game used equipment. Obviously you got his shorts, you got his jersey, you got his sneakers, hockey jerseys, football jerseys. How do we authenticate them? Where is the value set in those? You can speak to that a little bit.
Provenance is really important. Provenance, where is it coming from? If a player like Everson, sells his stuff, he's going to write a letter. You want to try to get as much information. You want to what you really need to do to value a game used jersey is to actually what's called photo matching it. So you want to actually match it to a photo of him wearing it in a game. And if you do that, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. So you have that match. That is a key element to selling anything that's game used. There are professionals that do that and they photo match it and they grade it. There's PSAs and there's mirrors.
So Scott, what you're saying is you actually have to match the sweat stain. Look at the picture and see it.
If you can find the sweat stain and actually match it, you're doing a great job. Believe it or not, you can do that. Dirt stains for sure.
So in your store, you have a number of Jordan, collectibles. What is your favorite piece?
I have this really cool VIP piece. There's a buzzing here.
Yeah, that's my phone ringing.
Okay.
Mark, put me on mute. I should take this.
Hold on. It's got to make sure that AJ's not getting a little crazy call there. So go ahead. Tell me what you got in your store, which is your favorite piece.
So I have a what's called a VIP piece that Upper Deck had done, which is really rare. There's supposedly 720 of them, but you very rarely see them. It's a photograph, supposedly. I don't know the story. It sounds like it couldn't be true, but the only time that they were photographed, Pippen, Rodman, and Jordan together. You have the picture?
Yep, it's up on the screen right now.
So that's an Upper Deck piece that's framed in suede and has like mosaic tile, Bulls color mosaic tile, and you see the clouds in the background. To me, like that is, if you're a Bulls fan, a Jordan fan, that's pretty great. So to me, I love that piece. I have lots of jerseys. I have All-Star Game jerseys, things like that, which are really cool. I'm actually selling to a friend of mine a number 12 jersey because Jordan came back and he lost his jersey one day and they had to give him a number 12 jersey. I don't know if you know that story.
No.
Yeah. So for one game, he wore number 12. So Upper Deck made a small amount of those number 12 jerseys. And then, of course, when he came back and he wore number 45. You
Right.
remember that?
Yeah.
So it was 45 jersey. Generally, the person that's buying the number 45 jersey, the number 12 jersey, is the guy that is a big Jordan collector that has a number 23 jerseys. Because if you're starting out, I would think the first jersey you want to get is the number 23 jersey, obviously.
So one of our viewers is a professional boxer, Cletus Selden, the Hebrew Hammer, and he's a big Jordan collector as well. So this is his collection. All of these, with the exception of two of those pairs, are all Jordans. Okay, I believe they're Nike Air Jordans. I don't believe any of them are game used. And then under
I am just sneakers that he bought.
Yes. Yeah. And then underneath are, a certain brand of, he sent me the actual name of them because I was not familiar with them. So these are Interbay figurines of Jordan. What's the value in things like that?
Well, I don't know through the Interbay. They're probably rare and valuable. I don't know. It depends on the limited edition run. He would know that. He would know better than I would because I have not collected those figures. I have not seen them. So they're probably rare. You can ask him how they were allocated or how he was able to obtain them. Were they through the market? Did you have to belong to an exclusive club? I don't know. I don't know it. Yeah. The shoes, I'm not a shoe guy. As far as I know, there's a huge market.
Yeah.
I happen to bring in my original Michael Jordan sneakers that are, if I put them on my feet, I slide around because there's no soles left on the bottom. But I'll show them to you, actually. I brought them in, and they're my favorite sneakers. These were like, can you see them? These were like 1992. I don't know.
Yeah.
You got them?
Yeah.
So, you see the soles?
So actually, I think Cletus is actually texting me. So I don't know if he's in the chat room, but those are very cool. So
these are mine, and the soles are so smooth that they literally, even on carpet, I slide on it. But these are not for sale. These are just for show that these are like my favorite.
So you also have some Jordan cards. So right now, right there is a 1986 Fleer sticker Jordan.
Yeah, so that's a sticker Jordan that to me is undegraded, but because it's centered, and most of the Jordan stickers are not centered as well. I had sent it out. I got a 6-pack, so they're really tough on that card. Usually, the problem with those cards is that there's generally wax on the back of that card. I didn't see it when I graded. I could have missed it, but yeah, that card is catching steam. That card is the sister card to the True Rookie, which I think you have a picture of as well. You have that? That's the red one. I have it here. It's the red one that this is the iconic card.
Yeah, I'm having trouble popping that one up for some reason.
Well, let's see. I'm gonna look on that.
All right, so now a Jordan rookie, because what year is that card now? So
this is 1986-87 Fleer.
1986, 1987 is almost at the period where baseball becomes the junk pack, right? Where, kind of jump the shark. For basketball, is that still in collectible, or is it only the Jordan card from that era that's worth anything?
So a lot of people didn't collect basketball cards back then. A lot of people threw them out and didn't really give basketball. Basketball was really a very, very like a stepchild to baseball cards. So these boxes actually became on the rare side. So all the cards in the 86-87 Fleer basketball set had value. Essentially, because there was no cards before that, everybody is really considered almost a rookie, unless you had a rookie card in Topps made cards in 79, 80, and 80, 81, 81, 82. So if your rookie was a Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, you were a rookie back then. But everybody that was like Patrick Ewing, Clyde Drexler, Akeem Olajuwon, most of the Chris Mullin, most of those guys who are on the Dream Team, their rookies are all emanated in that set. So that set is highly collectible. Jordan being, head and shoulders above them, above the rest of them.
Proportionally to baseball, when you say highly collectible, what would a full set of that particular year go as compared to the same year in baseball?
The same year in baseball, an 86 Topps baseball card set, I'll be nice and say it's worth $40. Really, when you get to the Fleer set, it's really predicated on condition because it's red bordered and they have a lot of centering issues. So it's very different than the baseball set. So, you're talking about, I'm going to give you a variable. I mean, that set could be with all the stickers, with the whole thing. I mean, it could be a $5,000 set.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, if great, when you get into grading, whatever. If someone came to me with a nice set and they offered it to me for $2,500, I'd buy it.
Interesting.
But again, here's another thing. But when you're buying them raw, there's a lot of dupes, there's a lot of forgery, there's a lot of reprinted Jordan cards that they did very well, and you have to be able to, look at it and ascertain whether it's a reprint, and that's a whole nother story. There's a lot of that.
So what do you look at to know it's a reprint?
There are things on the back of the card, the print quality of the card, the clarity of the actual NBA in there would be blurrier and not as clear. The coloration on the back, and then if you feel it, if you're good enough, you feel the texture of the card, you just know it's a little bit off. And generally on the front, I can spot, my eyes are good enough to spot the pixelation is not quite the same.
So these were bootleg reprints, or they were sanctioned, authorized reprints?
They weren't sanctioned. No, they were bootleg, and some of them are very, very, very good. So you have to really be careful. Where there's a will, there's a way.
I just want to mention that since this is a live component and there are a number of people watching, if you have questions, throw it in the chat room. We see, or the comments, we see the comments, and you can get, Scott to answer your question. A couple of people had sent in some memorabilia and things that, I asked them for, because we're gonna do almost like what's it worth with Scott. But before we do that, Scott, I don't know, you're probably a little too young, but AJ would remember this. But my favorite part of Let's Make a Deal was Monty Hall would walk around in the audience and ask, who's got a bobby pin in there?
Who's got a handkerchief? Who's got
I remember the show.
Okay, so
I'll give you $50 for this
right,
pen.
So that's how people got on, to get up there to decide door number one, number two, and the various different games. So we want to do a little variation, because for those who've not been in Scott's store, I mean, it's once these things open up and we're allowed to go places, and you don't want to make the trek up to Cooperstown or Canton or Toronto or any of the various Hall of Fames, you could spend days in Scott's store and not see everything. So I was thinking we could almost play the Let's Make a Deal, entree game, where AJ and I throw out a name, and we'll give you like 30 seconds to get out of your seat, go somewhere in the store and find something. You want to do that?
I might trip and hurt myself, but yeah.
This is not Let's Make a Deal. This is Supermarket Sweep. That's what this is.
Oh, this is okay.
Yeah.
All right. So for me, it's funny. I in looking for some of my collectibles, I actually found my elementary 6th grade autograph book when you moved on to junior high school, and my favorite player at that point was Willis Reed. So I'm going to ask you to find something with Willis Reed in your store.
Find something with Willis Reed. Okay, I gotta go run.
All right, you're on the
clock.
Can I bring the thing with me and just point at it?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great, and then this way people will get a view of the store as well.
You have something, Karen?
Oh wait, Karen. So I don't know if Monty let someone else help them get it, but
it's like Patrick Sajak having Vanna do it.
Very loud.
So all right,
so let's see here.
Okay.
That was.
Here we go.
That was less than 30 seconds. And all right, so what do we got there, Scott?
So we have, for you basketball lovers, this is an original photograph by George Kalinsky, who you know is a Long Island, right? I think based in Port Washington. But what is George famous for, Mark?
Rangers and Knicks, Madison Square Garden. He's
out.
Sports Illustrated as well, but he's George. From the lens of George Kalinsky is a book.
Yeah,
and the Mets, yes.
The original Mets. He took a lot of the famous 1969 photographs that are iconic images from when the Mets won the World Series. A lot of great shots. He has an actual book on the Mets that's great. But this is the last All-Star game at the old Madison Square Garden, 1968. Oh, wow. So this is George's original photo. It's kind of abstract in the way that if you look, that's Oscar Robertson. Can you see over here? See Oscar? Or you don't see him?
You have to move it to the other way. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Now we can see Oscar. Big O.
Then you have your boy Willis, who you asked me for. You see him?
All right. Hondo is next, I think.
You got Havlicek. No. If you look in the far back, it's Bill Russell.
Oh, wow.
Far away,
Yes.
up front, and then
Oh.
who's
Then you got Hondo, and then is that I can't see the next one with the blue jacket.
is it Jerry Lucas? Lucas.
Lucas and the last one.
You got Dave DeBuscher and Dick
Dave
Barnett.
DeBuscher.
Wow. And how many signatures are on there?
So you have Oscar Robertson, Willis Reed, Bill Russell, John Havlicek, Jerry
Wow.
Lucas, Dave DeBuscher, and Dick Barnett. It's an original photo of the last All-Star game in '68 before they changed over the Garden. And the key on this piece to me is that Oscar Robertson usually signs in today's world Big O. That's how he signs his name. Here he signed his full name, Oscar Robertson. So
And it's a Kolinsky as well. So how much is a piece like that?
So that's a Kolinsky original.
How much does a piece like that go for, Scott?
What does that go for?
Yeah.
The friends and family discount, or the I would say about $1,500 retail.
That's not bad considering the signatures that are on there.
Well, the value also is the fact that it's an original photo off of George's original negative, so that makes it. Those two things powered together are make it stronger as far as value is.
All right, AJ. Yeah.
So I'm gonna make it more difficult. Okay, that was too easy.
Too easy.
Mark and I are working on a book on the 1973 Mets. One of everybody's favorite players on that team was George the Stork Theodore.
Oh, wow.
Can you find anything in the store from either the 73 Mets, specifically though George the Stork Theodore?
I have to dig, but I think I have a bat on George. I think I have a ball on George.
Wow.
How about if I get you a baseball card on George?
Okay, anything.
On George the Stork Theodore. He was on. I know he was on the 73 team. What was the years he played on the Mets?
Probably there's 73 and 74. I don't think he played more than that, but we can look that up.
All right.
It's like, really, AJ.
Well, how to make it hard, you know?
I mean, really, why didn't you ask him for Joe Foy while you're at it?
Well, you know.
I would imagine the market.
I look for the baseball card had both Amos Otis and Joe Foy on it, you know, traded for one another.
George the Stork Theodore. Again, if anyone, basically, so Mark Marinello in the chat room is saying he's got one card from 1974 is the card that he's on.
But by the way, Mark, I learned this as we're starting to do our research for the book. The Stork was not his original nickname. When he came up, he was George the Crane Theodore. They didn't want to have confused with the Crane Pool, so they changed his nickname to the Stork.
Yep, I remember that. It's funny. So again, so if you're just tuning in, our guest is not the Invisible Man. We're doing a pretty much like let's make a deal. We're asking Scott to find various things in his store, and AJ, like great television there, AJ. You have to find George Theodore.
Well, I want to say.
So he's looking through his store for a George Theodore 1974 baseball card or a bat or a ball.
Yeah. George Theodore played only 1973 and 74 for the Mets. Let's see what we can find here on him. We may tell Scott just to bag it. I'm sorry. That was my fault for picking somebody so obscure. But it sounds like he's tearing the whole store apart now.
Yeah, well, that's because you have to pick someone that is so obscure that the poor guy is now searching his entire store for George Theodore. I mean, and really, you think George Theodore is someone that's in a collectible store? I mean, you should have done it somewhat within reason, AJ.
Okay.
But, that's what happens when I give you a talking part.
Yeah, you can mute me. I can leave. Yeah.
Well, great. So then I'll have an empty chair and a muted person. Right. Thanks so much, AJ.
George Theodore, by the way, played 2 years for the Mets. He had 219. He had 42 hits, 2 home runs.
Meanwhile, the poor guy is searching his store.
But he knew, okay. He's not going to fail.
He's not going to fail.
We need some music, we need some background music for this.
So anyone that's in the chat room, feel free to I'm no longer going to ask AJ to throw out a name. So feel free to throw a name in there of a collectible.
Now, I could have been even more obscure,
Oh, really? Than George Theodore?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
people actually remember who George Theodore was.
Were you going to ask for a Moonlight Graham baseball card? Is that what you're going to ask?
That'd be nice. That'd probably be worth a lot of money.
But
the original Moonlight Graham, not Burt Lancaster.
No, I
put him
know.
away,
That's what
you
I'm
know.
saying. Right. The one at bat.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Here we go.
Oh, wait a minute.
Let me see if he's in here.
There's
Hold on.
movement. There's movement.
You said, what year did you say? 73?
73 and 74.
He only had his only baseball card was in 1974. Now, look what you've started, AJ. Now people want to see a Dave Schneck card. You know, great, AJ.
I
Great.
see Don Hahn. Okay.
Yeah.
Dave Schneck. We get people talking though, Mark. You know, that's the point. They getting back.
Yeah, great. Throwing out obscure Mets. Like next will be Dave Marshall, Ron Herbel.
We can get a few more. You know, Rick Hersher, Rod Kenneal. Give me a Rod Kenneal card.
Look at you stumped the poor guy.
You didn't stump me.
No, he's got it.
By the way, I have a ball on him and I have a bat. I just have to dig.
See, this is to show you how just the depth of Scott's inventory. And you can walk in and say, I want George Theodore. Just give me some time. I'll have a ball and a bat.
I'm looking for him in the yearbook.
Well, the interesting thing is, I can't imagine anyone walking into a store and asking for a George Theodore, unless it was actually George Theodore.
Or his mother.
So, Scott, don't kill yourself over George Theodore, please.
I'll find him. But go ahead.
So wait, we have a couple of other things. All right, because you mentioned last week about the Roberto Clemente pin. So right now, if you look on the screen, there are 4 pins that I have. Okay, so there's the aforementioned Roberto Clemente Day. All right, then there's a WPLJ New York Yankees 75th World Series pin, and then 1973 Mets and Schaefer Beer We Believe pin, and probably about a 77, 78 Lee Mazzilli pin. Are those worth anything at all, other than we know that the Clemente is worth something, but the other
Mazzilli would probably want that pin.
or his son, right?
WPLJ salutes the Yankees, 70th in the World Series. I have that pin too. The WPLJ pin will probably worth about $20. The We Believe,
really,
$15 to $20. The We Believe, what was that? 69 or 73?
73.
Okay, so
73.
73.
And it's Schaefer Beer, which is pretty cool.
Right?
Yep.
I don't know that pin, but I would just guesstimate that it's probably $35 to $50 retail.
Wow.
Interesting.
All
right. Now here's something that I love, and I've had these since I've been 6 years old. And so if you take a look at the screen, these are 3 tumblers.
So here's your trivia question for these tumblers.
From Citgo, right? Are they from Citgo?
No, they were not Citgo. They were Sunoco. That was me the trivia question.
Okay, Sunoco.
my brother Randy has our set of those that we collected because my father got gas at a Sunoco gas station, and we collected the whole set.
Are you sure?
I thought it was Citgo. I'm pretty sure.
Citgo. It's Citgo, not Sunoco. You're wrong.
I believe it's Citgo. And in fact, also...
You know what? I'll bet you the ones that we have, which go back to like 63, 64, were Sunoco.
Maybe 63. These, I believe, were Citgo, as well as then I think 2 years later in 69, they did these 3 years later, they did these prints, which I also have all of them. So basically, it's Dick Stewart, Rob Gardner, and Johnny Lewis are the 3 that I have. I love them. I mean, I've had them since I'm 6. Are they of any value at all?
Yes, they're definitely a value. I don't know the value, I'd be lying to, but yeah, anything like that that's obscure has value. That's what the oddball Met collector looks for, weird stuff. So I don't want to give you a number because I don't know the number. It's the whole set or incomplete?
No, I only have the 3, and it's by a famous artist. I believe his name was I think Richard Volpe. I know Volpe was his last name. I'm not sure of his first name for sure. But interesting stuff. You are still looking for that George Theodore.
I
will tell you a weird Met collectible.
That's a yearbook. That's a yearbook.
You're asking for the stalk.
There it is. Okay.
You got it.
You have something. There it is.
That's something. So AJ sent me some of his collectibles. So I put that.
I don't have a lot
together, but so he's got a 1962 Met score card. You'll see there in the upper left.
Signed by Cookie Labagetta, who's the third base coach.
Right. He's got a 1966 yearbook. He's got, this is which I thought was the best out of the bunch, was the Golden Stamp book of the Brooklyn Dodgers. And then he's got
his 1955.
Right.
It's got a Koufax in there.
It's got Jackie Robinson. It's got Koufax. The problem is, because I got this when I was a kid, actually took the stamps and pasted them. So you can see, let's find Koufax. I'll find Jackie Robinson.
As long as you did a nice job on it.
that there's Carl Erskine, there's Don Newcomb,
Give me the nicknames when you say it.
Carl Spooner, Joe Black, there's Sandy Koufax. He was a bonus baby.
It's Koufax's rookie. That's why.
Yeah, there's Koufax.
rookie.
Let's see the
see.
stamp though, AJ. Let's see. Wow.
Let's see. Can you see?
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's the Koufax stamp. And Clem Labine, Gil Hodges. Who else do we have? Duke Snyder.
So AJ was
Harold Henry Reese. Doesn't say Pee Wee.
So
Harold
AJ,
Henry Reese.
Harold Henry, really? Okay.
right.
Yeah. And Jack Roosevelt Robinson.
I love that. I actually have those too. I have them I have them the way you do it, and then I have them. One day we'll do a whole Book and Dodger show because I have scrapbooks. I have.
So what is this worth?
It's worth what someone's willing to pay for it. Did your parents ever tell you that?
No.
What's it worth? Probably mid-$100 range.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it wasn't stamped, it might be 2.5.
Yeah, it's
Something
so.
like
What's a 1962 Mets scorecard then worth?
It depends. Did you score it? Is it yours?
It was given to me. The story to this was given to me by a cousin who was an adult cousin, my parents' age, who actually went to the game. And it was a game on August 23rd because he marked this 1962. And he went down, got Cookie Lavagetto to autograph the scorecard. What I noticed about this going through, it wasn't scored, but it was August 1962. The Mets were not doing well. They weren't drawing great. And they weren't printing up new programs for each series. What it apparently did, it looks like my cousin went to a series at which the Mets played the Giants. But they didn't want to print up new scorecards for that series, so they took an old Pirates series and pasted over the Giants team and the numbers. You can see it's pasted over, and underneath where it came off, you can see the Pirates.
Really? Are you
Yeah.
sure?
Do you think?
I am 100% positive. When you open the store, Scott, I'll bring it and show it to you in person.
But wait,
What?
but AJ, do you think that the Mets did it, or do you think that he did it?
No, I'm sure the Mets did it because it's printed. It's printed in the same typeface.
Wait, is it taped into the thing, or is it?
Yes, it is pasted over. They printed the Pirates roster. Pasted over it was the entire Giants roster with their numbers. This clearly came from the game. I haven't
I'm
really
gonna
touched this since 1962.
That's interesting. That
Yeah.
Very, yeah. Well, it's polographs. Anything from '62 has some value because it's when the Mets started, So it's not scored. I would say if it was scored neatly in the history, they're a little bit more valuable actually if they're scored neatly. But if they're not scored neatly, then they're less valuable than if they were scored at all. So,
Well, I have a 1972 scorecard. I went to the game. I scored it neatly. It's interesting. As I looked at the game, it was rained out after 7 innings.
AJ, where were you sitting? I think I saw you there.
Probably 1970. I probably was sitting in the mezzanine.
So someone who's actually watching right now, and he's a tremendous collector of Met memorabilia. I mean, if you follow him on Facebook, you see the things that he gets in the mail every day. But this is what he sent in. It's the 1964 ticket from the All-Star game.
What did I show you last week? Do you remember I showed you the
500th home run.
Yeah.
Of the All-Star. No, I showed you the All-Star game from '64.
Yeah.
I had the big orange ticket last week that I showed you.
Scott, if you can, people are saying in the chat room that your audio is a little low. So if you can, move a little closer to the mic, it'd be better because they're saying they're having a little trouble hearing you. So we'll rectify that. That's the beauty of the live. At least people tell you.
Got me now?
Yeah, I think that's better. Yeah. So now here's something which I've had for years. I think I picked it up at a garage sale. And I've never really looked up what it's worth, and it's just weird. It's a very weird thing. So here, and it's a handy football library, and basically, it's got one book which is offensive football, one book is defensive football, 3 is the rules of the game, and then 4 top performers. It's from 1949.
Was it written by Claire B?
No, it doesn't have an author, but yeah, Claire B. I actually met when I went to Kutcher's basketball camp. He was still around.
You can ask me the value of that. I don't know. But periodicals and stuff like that from that period of time are not going to be worth that much money.
Right.
It's going to be worth a lot more money to you. If I had to make a guess, I would say you're lucky if it was worth $50.
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of people, there's a whole collectors on Facebook. There's a whole baseball books collectors. And, occasionally you see like these books come up and books that you didn't know. Like I picked up this Cleon Jones book and you get them for like $1.99.
Right.
it's pretty interesting, like the books from the 60s, and and they're not out there anymore, but a lot of them, what you find are library editions that have been discarded, and still have like the library stamped, discarded, and they're like $1.99, but they're
property of this library, you'll go to jail if you take it, and
right.
now you have it.
Yeah, so that's some of the things that people find, like you said, there's different collections for everyone, thing. And the books are one of the things that you find people collecting now as well. So let's see who else. All right. So do we want to play? So you're already getting an offer, AJ, if you want to sell that scorecard. All right.
Here's the rare air book, Michael Jordan.
Oh, wow. So now
it's not very valuable, but look how cool the pictures are. Look how great these shots are.
Yeah. So like you said, so like for you, obviously the store is not open, but you are getting inquiries. So when this documentary comes out, how do you notice there's an uptick, of inquiries?
People are calling to open up the older basketball boxes right now because they have inserts in them and stuff like that. So people are coming back to their childhood. There's emails. I'm watching the markets. I'm seeing that more stuff's coming to market, but there is an interest where there was not really anywhere near the interest now. Now, will that interest stay throughout the show? Will it wane? It's like anything else. Is it catching a little thunder? I think it's catching a little thunder and bringing people, like I said, back to their childhood. So, but it's it's fun, and we need good diversions. We need good things to go back to. Having no sports for us it's like, how do you survive? I mean, so people, this documentary, which is on once a week, and they do usually 2 shows, people are really fixated on it because it's giving them something to look forward to, right?
So, we talked about Jordan and the documentary. If you look, like each week they feature something. Last week it was the Detroit Pistons and the relationship between the Pistons and the Bulls and how the Bulls had to beat the Pistons to move on. Has this rekindled in any way, shape, or form interest in the Pistons of that era?
No, zero. Zero. I don't think people really like the Pistons. The Pistons aren't one of those teams that you gravitate toward. I've never really heard, anybody gravitate. We're in New York, so the biggest name on that team is going to be Isaiah Thomas, and he's wishy-washy on the collector's mindset. He's not a big seller for whatever reason.
So one of the comments in the chat room is from Mark, and he says that card shows are going to boom when this is over. First of all, we don't know when this is going to be over, but what are your thoughts on some of these card shows? Because like you mentioned, there are a lot of counterfeits out there, and if you're walking through these card shows, sometimes with something specific in mind to buy, or sometimes you're walking around and something that catches your eye that you think is a good bargain. If you don't know the person, how leery should someone be at these card shows?
I mean, listen, you got to just go with people that you trust and that you know. They've cleaned up their act tremendously over the last years. I mean, years and years ago, there was so much forgeries as far as autographs on the marketplace, and there were people that would be selling them. But now, with the JSA, the PSA, and authenticators, and people being a lot more savvy today, it doesn't really. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
It doesn't happen as much. As far as someone selling a reprint, a trim card, things like that, you might not know right away, but even there are some grading companies that will actually look at things on the spot, charge you a premium to do that. But then you can, send it out and grade. If you have someone's number and name and you know that they're religiously at the shows, listen, you gotta have your spidey senses up, and you gotta use common sense. You gotta go with people that you trust and that you have a relationship with, or can form one, or you have feedback from them. You have to be careful in anything.
So, we've talked a lot about cards and sneakers and jerseys. How about some other things these times? One thing that's had a resurgence while people have nothing else to do are games. So an old edition of Stratomatic, an old edition, remember the game Challenge the Yankees? That was a Stratomatic
Love that.
Knockoff. Are people looking for those types of things too now, or is that just the other thing, just another one of the things? But
remember, Challenge the Yankees is an older game, so it's an older person. Not saying that you're old, but you have to be.
I'll say it.
Most people, unless you're like me and you have a store and you really know the history, most people, unless you're 60 plus years old, don't even know what Challenge the Yankees is. I do. I have to know. It's got the square card. the green. It's got the Yankees and then the All-Stars. So you have Hank Aaron, whatever. I love that set. I didn't play it, but I have a couple of those sets, and they are very collectible and they are valuable depending on the condition. And people do grade. You do grade those cards. Matter of fact, I'm thinking to myself that I never got back I sent in a card to get graded, and I never got it back on that from that set. So
Yeah, so it's also interesting because there have been different things that came out, and for a while they were like super hot, like the Kenner starting lineup, McFarland's, and then all of a sudden, I guess the beginning of that was Heartland,
Right.
way back when, and I remember in like I guess 68 or 69, there were these little tiny figures that was the Mets. They also had like the Beatles, these little plastic figures. What happened? Like
you remember the Mets ones you're talking about? They almost look like the starting lines before the starting lines. Like
Yep.
3 of them with a background.
Exactly. I love them.
In a box.
Exactly. Yeah.
In a box, and
Yeah.
they did the 69 Mets.
Exactly. That's what I'm
Do you
talking
have
about.
those anymore?
Not anymore. I had them as a kid, but they were never in the box. I used to play with them, used to move them around. But that's
I love those actually.
those are very cool. But
wait, the baseball card was on the back of the box?
there was, I don't remember if there
Yellow
was a
baseball card on the back of the box.
I think so. It might have been the card. I don't remember. I remember the figurines, but the thing is, why? What happened to starting lineup? Everyone like ate those up like crazy, and then fell off the table.
Correct. They went to by the way, the Beanie Baby.
But so like, how do you know what's a fad and what's not?
But they were really never ultra valuable. Only the original 88 ones, and the most valuable ones that was the football set that came out. They were on the rarest, and they still have some value, but I guess it's supply and demand. They made a lot of them, and a lot of people have them. It goes into that like junk wax late 1980s baseball stuff. They started in 88, 89, 90 in that era. So a lot of people have those. I get a lot of phone calls. I got starting lineups.
Yeah, John Myers in the chat room. I have 100 starting lineups. So it said, please buy him. He said, but then there was, I mean, the bigger ones, the Bobby Orr and the McGuire. They made bigger ones.
The big boxes.
Yeah.
Those
but then
really worth a fortune, but those are cool looking.
Yeah, but then there's the other thing where the issue is things that weren't collectible end up in the bargain bin for 90. And I remember this. I bought a Wayne Gretzky Mattel for I think like $1.99, and it was both in English and Canadian, and it was a Mattel like the size of a bar.
No, wait. There's no such language as Canadian.
French.
Hang on 1
Okay.
second. Hold on 1 second.
Well, now you sent him off on something.
I think he's going to go get it.
So when was the last time you had Canadian lessons, Mark?
You are very funny.
You speak English and add, A to the end.
Exactly.
Is this it?
That is exactly it. So how much is that worth now?
How long did that take me?
That was good.
Do you have one like that in George the Stork Theodore?
It was in my back pocket.
So how much is that worth?
Did you remember what I told you the last time?
It's whatever someone will buy it for.
Correct.
Right?
Bingo.
All right. So we've got some.
I don't really know, but I would say I wouldn't sell mine for less than $100.
Right. Okay. So now actually we got some clarification on those figures.
Do I have a buyer out there?
How much you selling it for? I sold mine years ago.
$100.
It's very cool. And then he actually there was other outfits. There was a tuxedo for the award ceremony, some really cool stuff. So clarification on that Met set from way back when. Transogram was the name of the figure.
Yes, Transogram, correct.
Yeah. So good stuff on that.
Transogram.
So then
were the cards on the back.
Yes. Yeah. So some of the other things that are, you look at over the years, the Topps coins. There was the really pathetic. I'm pretty sure it was Topps 3D, relief set, which was just I don't even know what they were thinking. It was really disgusting. It was these big cards in topographical form. So some of the failures, did they become worth anything?
Well, always test sets and things like that are always worth a lot of money. There's a really rare Kellogg's test set that they did through I think Topps. I can't remember the year. It might be 1968. and they're very, very valuable.
Yeah, there's a Clemente in there that's worth like $5,000, right? Something like that.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, Mark, you have a pretty good collecting history.
Yeah. Mark is a collector. Some would say
Not
hoarder, but
anymore.
there's a very fine line.
Not anymore.
Mark, most people would
So-
know that, but yes, the Clemente is the.
Yeah, I remember that.
You
Because
know, they have all these sets. They have the Venezuelan set, you know, whatever. There was I just sold, what was the set? The cleaning company. I can't think of it. It was in Spanish. I can't think of it, but there's also a great test set, the 1971 test set. That was the big, long set that was from 71 that had all the stars. The name eludes me, but there's Thurman Munson, there's Pete Rose, and it's black, but they're horizontal. Do you remember those?
Those I don't remember. So test sets are big. Do they still make test sets these days?
No, it would be like a pro. Maybe never made it to mainstream. Supposedly the test set from 71 was only released in the Brooklyn area because Topps was in Brooklyn at the time, and it never made mainstream. So it became valuable. It's a great set. I love it. It's very hard to get in great shape because it's like tall boy size, but they're all like horizontal, and it has that black border, kind of just like the 71 Topps has.
So you had the dolls, something totally different. 3 years ago or so, I was looking for a 60th birthday present for my brother.
Thanks for the call.
Huge. Well, I'll tell you what happened. It's a story. I went into your store, and I was looking for something very unusual because he has our our plastic glasses, from Sunoco and all the other things. So I was looking for something unusual, and what I got in your store was a toaster that toasted toast with the Met emblem.
I remember that.
You remember that? And that was a series, and it turned out, as I did some research afterward, apparently somebody put out that line with every different team's logo in the toaster. What's the demand for odd things like that? Now, dolls are one thing, but for things like toasters that make toast with the Met emblem.
Generally, the person that comes in looking for that is a little off base. He's a little cockeyed, and he's looking for toast that, so I would say a person like that would be probably someone like you.
Well, I was just looking for something odd for my brother who has, you name this weird stuff. He's got it. And actually, by the way, he loved it.
It probably didn't work that long, right?
I think he made it twice. He still has it. I haven't asked him, when's the last time he made toast from the toaster about?
Well, actually, that was one of our weird stories of the week on the radio show, where when Big Papi was having the auction in his house, one of the items included a Boston Red Sox toaster. So that's Big Papi. So Big Papi got one.
Right.
Hey, listen, if you have everything and you have cool stuff, the collector wants everything unique and oddball. He doesn't want what everybody else has. He wants something that, listen, if you can have someone come over to your house and you can make eggs and toast, and you can have the logo of your team when you serve it out, and it's gonna raise some eyebrows. I mean, people are gonna be like, wow.
So a couple of things. Clarification on the transagram. Yes, yellow cards on the back. So you spot on that. So one of the things you mentioned last week was the fact that, with the Yankee medallion, the ticket stub, and the program, things like that, it becomes one, tremendous piece. I've been, I put it on hold for a number of years. A friend of mine got a uncut ticket run of the Challenge Cup series between the USA versus Russia. And then there was a subsequent card set, about that Challenge series. And I had sent out Esposito, Hedberg was in it. There was a whole bunch of different players because it was also Finland, Norway. And so I sent one of the tickets and the card from the card set. And I got, Hull, Esposito, a bunch of them.
Are you talking about 1976?
No, this is 72, I believe. No, it would have to be. No, it's probably 76, right? Because it had Hedberg in it, so it's 76. Yeah, Lanny McDonald is in that.
That's when they did those whole runs of, the Soviet Union was coming to different states.
Right. So what I wanted to do was get a picture of the final handshake to put over it, and then all the tickets autographed. I haven't been able to find a picture of the handshake, but when you say that's what people do, and they make pieces out of it. So do collectors come to you looking for that next piece to finish a collage to be framed? And if so, what are some of the coolest collections you've seen people come into your store with?
people will do like the whole team sets of stuff. Like they'll try to do the runs of like the Knicks championship team. I have a personal friend of mine who went crazy trying to get a floor signed, and he literally flew all over the country trying to get these people to sign. Befriended the secretaries of the of the Knicks and stuff like that. But they'll get stuff like even recently in the 2015 if the Mets win the World Series and you want to get the tickets signed by the starting pitchers and things like that. So people will do that. I've done a lot of Knicks stuff. I've done a lot of what have I done? They'll do like the runs of the tickets from when the Rangers won '94, which I think that's something that you probably have, the tickets for that, right?
Right. Yes.
You still have those or not?
Yep.
Yeah.
Still have them. In fact, the Rangers sent all the season ticket holders their specific ticket for the final game and a lucite holder. So I have that also, which is pretty cool. The actual seat that you sat in and an unused ticket for that. A funny comment in the chat room about the toasters. Mark said he got a Jet toaster for Christmas one year. The toast came out burnt. So obviously it was a Jet secondary toaster, I believe.
Well, it came out burnt because the corners
exactly.
and probably broken down also.
So you mentioned about different runs and stuff, and that got my mind going also. When these stadiums closed down, Shea Stadium specifically, and you kick yourself because at the point when they were selling the items, they probably weren't that expensive. In fact, there's a website, and I never dawned on me. I had season tickets, and they sold the actual elbows with the number, like the section I was 114, and your actual nameplate. Because I guess the Mets sold that all off in bulk, and so I can't find it. So things like that, stadium seats, signage from the concession stands, turnstiles. Where is the market for that? Where can collectors go to find that? Is that a very specific niche?
Well, when they broke down Shea Stadium, they broke down Yankee Stadium. I mean, it was already, the collectible market was already in full force. So Steiner at the time had the right to tear everything apart from Yankee Stadium. So they controlled most of that paraphernalia, from signs to the wall to the foul pole and stuff like that. So when it first came out, it was hot because people wanted to hold a piece of it, and then it kind of levels off a little bit. But it depends on what the item is. I have some rare stuff that came out. That I have the bunting that hung at Yankee Stadium, the final game. The bunting hung the first game at Yankee Stadium in 2008. The All-Star game was at Yankee Stadium, if you remember, in 2008. And then the last game. So the bunting was I have one hanging up in my store, actually. It's probably 5 by 10. When I say bunting, you know what that means. If anyone doesn't know, it's the red, white, and blue, kind of like in the
scallops, like the
it's the bunting. So, but I have some paraphernalia. The seats were sold kind of as mostly in pairs. Steiner sold that and controlled it. The Mets did more of their own seats. I think they sold pairs for $886 or $869, I think, to season ticket holders.
Yeah, well, also, I think at one point, I think the old.
Hold on one second.
All right, I'm gonna put Scott on mute in case.
Yeah,
he's getting the same call that you got.
Hey, if he's got business, that's better. I had a doctor call.
So I remember that.
I'm gonna ask Scott this when he comes back. So, people talk about pieces from the stadium. I have a seat. I have a sign. I have this. One of the lingering memories, at least I have, you were a little young, 1969, was after the Mets won, people stormed the field and were taking pieces of the sod.
I had sod from 1973 that I kept in my backyard.
Right. So my question is, I'm going to ask Scott, has anybody ever come into him trying to sell him? Because this friend of mine who was there had it in a plastic bag for years. And, anybody come and try and sell him, sod allegedly from, the final game of 1969 when Mets won the World Series.
Well,
But
Mark says he's got
I see,
a Shea brick and dirt, which is pretty cool. Those are some of the things that I think
Yeah.
I fell asleep at the wheel on, because I
Yeah.
know even with the Yankee Stadium, if I remember, I'm trying to think which cigarette company it was. It was basically it was something like a special, and it wasn't really that expensive to get a seat from Yankee Stadium.
Are you
You know,
going back to the original days? Or are you going back to
yeah, I'm going back to 73 when they closed down. Yeah, when
They
they
were
closed
sold through Corvettes, Korvett.
EJ
EJ
Corvette.
Corvette,
Yeah.
The seats
Jewish.
were. The seats were. I'm trying to remember the price.
It wasn't expensive. It was
Like
not.
$13 or something.
Yeah, it's like so. Like when those are the things that you kick yourself
Junk.
for.
It was junk. They want to get rid of it. Junk.
So, Scott, while you were gone, Mark and I were talking. I have a friend who was in Shea Stadium when the Mets won the World Series in '69. He and thousands of other people took a little baggie, grabbed some of the sod, put it in a bag, and said, "I have a piece of this when they won the World Series." Has anybody ever come into your store trying to sell you, saying, "This is from the sod from Shea Stadium in 1969"? And of course, you have no way of verifying this. You probably wouldn't buy. Anybody ever try to sell you that?
No, but they did do in 2008. They did it for Shea, and they freeze dried the sod for the Yankees and for the Mets. But no, I mean, listen, you tell a story, you look at it. If you want to buy it, you have the person write you a letter and tell you the story and put it together with it. And if somebody wants it, that's the provenance. And if they want it, if it's believable, that's how you sell it. So that's what makes memorabilia. I mean, that's a great story. That picture of everybody jumping off, the thing, and the cops, the picture that everyone sees, the iconic image of the umpires running one way, the cops running in, the umpires running away, the guys are jumping over the stands. I think I have the picture in the bag. You want me to bring it, but it's just a craziness.
But the interesting thing is, someplace in Seaford, in my old house in the backyard, there's a patch of grass that is, basically took over from 1973. I basically took home that grass. I kept some in a box in my room until it died, but I also put some in my backyard, and it actually took. So it's pretty interesting. There is some, Shea Stadium grass from 1973 in a backyard in Seaford.
Did you ever find out exactly what kind of grass it was? Was it different when it grew? Was it a different color? Was it a different texture?
It was different. It was definitely a different texture. I put it in away from, like, we had an area, like when you turn the back in the corner underneath these trees, and I put it there, and it took. It was definitely a different color for sure.
So, Mark, you're exactly what the collecting world was created for. You collected because you were submerged in the history of sports. It obviously was shaped your whole life. I mean, to me it's a beautiful thing to see, because you were a child that loved everything. You probably went to every event and you remembered it, and you wanted a piece of something from there, and you came home, your memories. I mean, that shaped who you are today. Correct?
Oh, no question about it. And we go over that in the book, AJ and I did, about, fathers and sons. And that's because of my father. Every game we'd go to, the second we'd come up that escalator, there'd be the program guy. And I'd get the program with the little blue Met pencil. And then to the right of that escalator, because we had field level seats, to the right of the escalator was the souvenir stand. And we go to the souvenir stand. You say, pick out something. So, had the big Jerry Koosman pin and something I can't find, which I absolutely loved. There were two variations. One was just a bank with all the little bats, red bank. On the top was an arch, and you could put, coins in, and around it were these little plastic bats of every single team with their little logo on it. And then later they did it as pens. For some reason, I always love that. I have every facsimile which is also the silliest thing in the world. Those facsimile autographed baseballs. I mean, I think they were $275 at the time. I still have all of them. I know they're not worth anything. But
I can't tell you how many people walk into my store and tell me they have signed baseballs. And then I tell them they're facsimile stamped baseballs, and they're like, "Oh, that's not true. My father said he was at the game and got it signed by the whole team." And what do you know? What do you know? I'm like, I don't know. I have a store for almost 30 years. I don't know what I know. I know you want it to be real, but it's still a cool collectible. It was still sold at the stadium. There's still some value, but it's stamped. And
Is there value to that?
It depends which ones. If you have a 69 ball, it's in good shape, there's value to it.
It's a lot of it. I have a 67, Yankee one from the very first game I ever went to. But it's strange. I mean, that's what, just some of the collectibles they used to have were amazing.
They sold them at the stadium. So it's a true collectible from the stadium. You have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, yeah. So what's like some of the things what's like the holy grail these days for collect? Like if you're a Met and a Yankee collector, what's the holy grail, that people are looking for these days?
I mean, the Mets is a little different than the Yankees. I mean, the Yankees, you talk about a history from Babe Ruth up to, 27 championships mark. I mean, the Mets is a little easier to, figure out, stuff from 62, like you mentioned, 69 Mets, like a team signed item from the 69 Mets with Hodges, with all the coaches, things like that would be more of something that people want because, Hodges obviously died, I think, in 72?
70, yeah. Spring training is 72.
So having Hodges on a ball, as the manager of the team signed back then in good shape would be something. I mean, the 86 Met balls are commonplace. So
right.
That,
I didn't mention, and I didn't take a picture, and I'll show it next show, but here's a great Long Island collectible. I don't know how many people are going to remember the Ed Kranepool, Ron Swoboda restaurant, The Dugout.
The Dugout in Amityville.
In Amityville. I actually have the leather binder from the menu, which is this red pleather, binder for the menu with, a photo, a drawing of Ed and a drawing of Ron with facsimile autographs, but really autographed by both of them. It's so Long Island and so, Met centric, and people don't realize also Jerry Koosman had a hot dog, store. Some people have the napkins of Jerry Koosman.
Yeah, that was in Elwood.
Rusty Staub had that restaurant in the city.
Yeah, in the city. So are guys like that? Pete Rose in Florida had, Pete's, and he used to be there every day and
right.
give like
Pete Rose would only sign memorabilia that was sold in his souvenir shop. You couldn't bring something to the restaurant with you. You had to buy it there for him to sign it.
DiMaggio had a restaurant on the wharf in San Francisco.
Yeah.
There's so many people had a restaurant. I remember, and I'm going on a sidetrack, but I lived in Manhattan. And remember Pino's restaurant, the Italian restaurant? The Yankees used to go there. Bobby Mercer used to go there all the time.
No, I don't remember that one.
By Lexington, I think, on like 34th. Well, the guy that owned it was a former Boston Red Sox pitcher by the name of Jerry Casale. Remember that name?
Okay, yeah.
So it was a great Italian restaurant. But every time you go in there, he was a pitcher. He had a home run, and he would play. He would have the loop of him hitting the home run on all the time.
But I remember going to Jack Dempsey's restaurant on Broadway.
Yeah, Jack Dempsey.
Are items from those restaurants, whether it be ashtrays, menus, anything from those restaurants, do they have intrinsic value?
I wouldn't say they're worth a tremendous amount of money. I mean, obviously more iconic and stuff was available from Mantle's restaurant, which was in Central Park South. The menu and things like that. But that was more modern.
Yeah.
All right. So before we let you go, here's something that I always wonder. Like, all right, right now, obviously it's a different time with the pandemic. You're not out there, but when we're before this, your normal work week, how do you go about trying to find collectibles? Are you out there on the road? Do you do garage sales? Are you out there just like we are looking for? No. So
I don't do garage. Most people really actually come to me to know that whatever. I like I said, I never met anything I really didn't like. Hence, my store has a lot of stuff in it. So I'm always actively buying stuff, not because I need it, just because I love it. So if anybody in your audience has collections, I'm always buying stuff. So if they have stuff they want to bring to me just to look at, if they want to buy, my phone number. Do you have my phone number on the screen or any way to contact me?
No, but I can put it up right now. Hold on, let's see. So let's do this. Just give me 1 second. And tell them where they can look for the website as well. But what's the number, Scott?
The store number, which is getting forwarded to my cell, is 631-462-1919. It's Cardboard Memories. We're in Comac. I travel. People come to me. but I love to, talk to people. I love to see about the history. I like to see what they have. If they've gotten left stuff from people, I just love to go through it. You never know what you're going to find. So it's always an adventure, and it's always fun for me. Every time I look at something, I get an opportunity to get a feeling for, like I said last week, where that person came from, or who collected it, what their interests were. So to me, I'd like to meet anyone out there that has anything they want me to even see. If they don't want to sell it, they just want to show it to me. I'd love to see collections as well.
So, see, here's the interesting question. Obviously, when this is all said and done, I'm sure there's a wide segment of the population that is gonna be looking to get some money, because a lot of people have been out of work for a long time. Do you think you're going to see a lot more traffic and people trying to sell their entire collection?
I would assume. I would really assume so. Yeah. Unfortunately, when the economy gets hit, people, have to figure out ways to supplement their income, and that's a great way. Things that are lying around the house. You have to think a lot of people are clean. You see it all. People are cleaning out. They're organizing. So this is a time that they didn't have a chance to do that. So yes, I would think that you're probably going to get a large amount of stuff coming to market. I would think people haven't been able to come in, so they'll be jonesing to come in. So hopefully we'll see what people have unearthed. It's it's a great opportunity for people to go in their attic. Like you said, you started spending some more time doing it, right?
Yeah, all of a sudden I've been looking, but weird. Like the you mentioned the Rangers. I looked at like the 78, 79 set, and it was like $3.99. I bought a couple of books, but you know what? I am going to look for the Transagram as soon as we get off the air.
I have the whole set at my house. I'm going to bring it in if you want.
Do you really?
I have the whole set at my house somewhere, and I will bring it in and I will show it next week. We'll do that.
So this is pretty interesting. So this Matthew just put in the chat room, since you mentioned Long Island, I've got a mini slugger bat stamp with the Long Island Dodger boosters, 1957 on the barrel. That's pretty interesting. I've never seen that. You did mention we could do a whole show on the Brooklyn Dodgers, and that might be pretty interesting, considering the guys on that team that have such an affinity. And you mentioned the name, so you got Gil, obviously still here in Long Island in New York. Has pulls at the heart, and Jackie. Those two right there, and Campanella, an athlete. We talk about tragedy. Tragedy also is something that spurs on the collectible market. So you basically have Roy Campanella. So I think that will be a great topic. Maybe we'll do that next week.
Yeah, definitely, because I have those buttons and pins that I wanted to share. And the one thing I didn't show, jumping back, well, we'll do it another time. I was going to bring back Michael Jordan. I wanted everyone to go out. I wanted to read a quote, which was something that I take away from Jordan. That I sell a piece that talks about failing and succeeding. I texted you, Mark. Remember that quote?
Yeah.
So this is, Mike. People don't realize Michael Jordan. He's great, right? But what I love about this quote, I know we're jumping back, is if you see this piece. Yeah, you got it?
Yep.
No, I'm going to read the quote. It says, from Michael Jordan, I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot, and I missed it. I failed over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. So for any people out there that are afraid to try, if you don't try and you don't take the shot, it's cliche, but if you don't take that shot, you'll never make that shot. So, and, if you don't make it, there's always a next time. So you have to remember, that's a great quote that I just take away. I use it to teach. I use it when I talk to children. And it's kind of like one of the iconic things that I teach, almost like the Vince Lombardi speech,
It's amazing that you take a look at the two iconic athletes of our time have very similar quotes, and Gretzky's obviously is, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So it's both of them have the same philosophy, and both of them, and amazingly, as great as Jordan was, the argument could be made that Gretzky was more so to hockey than Jordan was to basketball. But yet Jordan is definitely more collectible. So that's also, it's obviously because of the sport.
But maybe not in Canada.
Yeah, that's true, but it's the sport as well. So that's another topic going forward too. When we're talking about all-time greats.
I think that in hockey, though, to me, I think, well, first of all, you kind of wear helmets and stuff like that. So you're not always seeing the way you can watch a basketball player play. To me, you're more of a hockey guy. So to me, did I lose you?
You're
Yeah.
back. You're back.
So I just think that, well, hockey we talked about last week is not as national as would say basketball. But yeah, I mean, Gretzky's the greatest of all time.
Right.
There's nobody better than Gretzky. But I just think that you visually can see more in basketball than you can see visually in hockey. Is that true to some?
No, I agree. I mean, the personalities too as well.
I
So,
lost you.
all right. No, I'm here.
Hold on.
You got me? I'm here.
I lost the audio.
All right. Scott, I don't know if you can hear me, but
Can you hear me? Because I
Yeah.
can't hear you.
I can hear you. We're good.
I can't. Hear
Definitely,
us.
I can hear
Let
you.
me see if I can. I have no volume.
All right. So we'll end it on that. We'll speak to Scott next week. So thanks everyone for tuning
Well,
in.
Mark, before we
Yeah.
go, why don't you tell everybody about the other Facebook Live things we're doing next week?
Next week, if you're interested, on Wednesday, we're doing a Bad News Bears reunion with a bunch of the guys from the Bad News Bears. And on Thursday, we're doing a Slapshot reunion with a bunch of the guys from the movie from Slapshot. So, and then again, next Friday, we will definitely be here with Scott as well. So, so we'll speak to everyone next week. Don't know if I don't know if Scott can hear us. I don't think he can. But all right. So we'll see everyone next. We'll see everyone Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday next week.
Right.
Again, next Wednesday is the Bad News Bears reunion show. Thursday, the Slapshot reunion show, and Friday is again with Scott Stimell from Cardboard Memories. Again, his number, if you're interested in speaking to him, 631-462-1919. Yeah, we can hear you, Scott. Can you hear us?
We're just signing off, Scott.
Yeah, I don't know if he can hear us. All right.
Okay.
So we'll see everyone next week, and have a good one, everybody.